Good evening and welcome. You're watching Centre Stage this Friday evening and we are getting you the inside track on the government formation in Maharashtra. Let's get started. These are the stories that have made the headlines this evening. West Bengal terror probe widens to 3 states. Currency notes looted from Karimnagar Bank found in Bardhaman. Role of escaped Simi terrorists from Khandwa under probe. Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Kochi airports put on high alert following threat of a possible terror attack on Air India flights. Omar gives a thumbs up to the Prime Minister's visit to the valley, says he has no quibble with relief package, maintains elections in the state should be postponed.
There was no quibbling. So far there's been no quibbling. I mean, the easiest thing for me is to play politics with this relief package, but I'm not going to do that because that would be dishonest.
Shiv Sena MPs to attend the Prime Minister's high tea Sunday. BJP begins preparations for Fadnavis' swearing in as Chief Minister at the Wankhede Stadium early next week. Bangalore school in dock after rape of a minor student. Sources reveal violation of guidelines and no background checks on staff. School trust official arrested. A doctor who returned to New York City after treating Ebola victims in West Africa tests positive for the virus, setting off fresh fears about the spread of the disease. It is now almost certain that Devendra Fadnavis will be the next Chief Minister of Maharashtra. The BJP is getting set for a grand swearing-in ceremony at the famous Wankhede Stadium in Mumbai. There is no definite answer yet on whether or not the Shiv Sena will be part of the new BJP government or not, or will it be supporting it from the outside? For more on this breaking story, we're joined now by consulting editor Rajdeep Sardesai. It's fairly clear now, Rajdeep, that Uddhav Thackeray might not be coming to Delhi, will not be part of the Prime Minister's high tea this Sunday. What does that mean for the Shiv Sena and the possibility of the Sena joining the BJP government in Maharashtra?
You know, my sense, Rahul, is that the Shiv Sena is divided on this issue. There is a large section, particularly of MLAs, who want to be part of this government. Shiv Sena has not been in power in Maharashtra now for 15 years. So there are a number of MLAs who want to be part of the government, want the loaves and fishes of office, want to be ministers. And there is a small coterie around Uddhav, particularly the likes of Sanjay Raut, who is the editor of Samna, who are keen that the Shiv Sena maintains some distance given the kind of campaign that was waged during the Maharashtra elections from the BJP. So I think the Shiv Sena is still in two minds, and I don't think Uddhav Thackeray himself is convinced that he needs to join the government. I think if he joins the government, he's only willing to join it if the formula is 2-to-1, which is 2 ministers of the BJP to 1 of the Shiv Sena, that they get at least some prized portfolios. And I get a sense, Rahul, that they want at least the deputy chief ministership. Now, the BJP isn't here to give any special favors to the Shiv Sena after the NCP offered unconditional support. So naturally, the BJP feels strong enough, muscular enough to go ahead and form the government on its own, or at least is certainly looking the Shiv Sena in the eye and daring it to actually stay out of the government. So my sense is that Uddhav Thackeray has another 48 to 72 hours to make up his mind. If he doesn't make up his mind in that period, you're right, I think the BJP come early next week will go ahead and form a government.
It's a game of bluff that's going on. The question is, who will blink first? Stay with us, Rajdeep. We're joined by Kumar Ketkar, one of the senior most political journalists out of Mumbai. Sahil Joshi, our very own Mumbai bureau chief, also joins us. I want to go across to Sahil first. He's got deep contacts inside the Shiv Sena. What's the sense? Rajdeep suggests that the Shiv Sena is split on the issue of whether or not they should join the government. The BJP is playing very tough. They're not prepared to go with the 2:1 formula. They're not even prepared to give plum portfolios to the Shiv Sena. Given the tough red lines that the BJP has drawn, is the Sena likely to come on board, support the government from within or without, or will the BJP, in your sense, Sahil, form a minority government?
See, first of all, Shiv Sena has now understood that the BJP does not need them as the way they needed them when the election results were just out in open. Because NCP has already declared the outside support to the BJP government. Now, the second part is that within Shiv Sena, as Rajdeep was mentioning, there were 2 different groups telling different things to Uddhav Thackeray. But the sense says that the Uddhav Thackeray could have just immediately said that they do not want to be part of this government, which has been supported by NCP from outside. But rather than that, they stick to having talks with BJP. And now the choice is not left to Shiv Sena. The choice is with BJP, because the BJP is going to offer them not the plump portfolios, especially finance and home, which was with the smaller parties in Maharashtra since 1995. The party who cannot have its own chief minister. That supporting party normally gets the plump portfolios like Home Department and the Finance Department. So if the BJP does not give them those portfolios, Shiv Sena will have to decide whether to go ahead with BJP
No, but in
or not.
that situation, Kumar Ketkar, what's your sense of the mood within the Shiv Sena? The BJP likely to hand out virtually the crumbs of the portfolios. They'll keep finance, they'll keep irrigation, they'll keep urban development, they'll not give home. There will be no deputy chief minister. Under these tough circumstances, will Uddhav Thackeray be prepared to come on board, or will the aggressive elements within the Sena, those who say Ekla Chalo, don't join the BJP-led government, do not compromise, will they triumph? What's your sense, Mr. Ketkar?
Well, actually, if Uddhav had the courage or even conviction or courage of conviction, he would have said that, well, we will not topple the government, we don't want instability, but we will not actually participate in the government. We don't want any ministries, any crumbs. We will support you unconditionally, but from outside, and we will be opposition as well as a supporting opposition, but we will not participate in the government. If they had said that, I am telling you, BJP would have been in trouble. Now BJP realizes that they are not going to bend but crawl, and therefore BJP is taking maximum advantage of the situation. And therefore I think Shiv Sena will have no option but to join, and join after getting adequately humiliated in the context of NCP supporting them. But actually the NCP support is also keeping the government on tenterhooks. So Shiv Sena could have said, on the day of confidence motion, we will not vote against you. Let us wait for next 6 months, then you decide who needs whom. At the moment, I have a feeling that BJP is overplaying its card. BJP is actually behaving as if they don't need Shiv Sena, but in reality, Shiv Sena in opposition could be more a threat to BJP than Shiv Sena supporting them.
Rajdeep, there are people within the Shiv Sena who believe that if they were to play second fiddle to Amit Shah and Fadnavis at this time, over the next 5 years, the BJP will further encroach on the Sena space, leaving the Sena a marginalized force in Maharashtra politics. How real a fear is that from the Sena's perspective?
You know, Rahul, there are two views of that. One is that if you don't join the government and you stay out, then you have absolutely no leverage over the power structure in Maharashtra. And then the Shiv Sena's only real power structure left is the Mumbai Municipal Corporation. So you need to be in government, because then you can use the levers of government to perhaps, in a sense, distribute largesse and make yourself, in a sense, more viable 5 years from now. The other view, as you said rightly, is that you get swallowed by the BJP and you're left, you're further undermined. So na ghar ka na ghat ka, you're caught between a rock and a hard place. I think the Shiv Sena, frankly, now has to take a larger call. Do they want to be part of the power structure with the BJP, or do they believe that a stage has been reached where the personality differences, the differences on the ground between the two are so sharp that they cannot join the BJP, and they would like to remain what they started off as a party primarily of the Mumbai, Thane and Konkan region. I think this is a call that the Shiv Sena has to take about the kind of identity that it wants for itself in the next 5 years. Do they want to be part of the central government? And I'll give you one thought, Rahul, at the end. Anand Gite, please look at his position. He's the heavy industries minister at the center. So that he hasn't given up his ministership. So while Uddhav Thackeray weighs the options of whether to join the government in Maharashtra, Mr. Gite is happily sitting in the heavy industries ministry here in Delhi. So I think the Shiv Sena is, in a sense, undecided. It's confused, and that confusion is being reflected at the moment in both Delhi and Mumbai.
What's the thinking within the Shiv Sena? Let's take you across to Mumbai. Joining us from there is Bharat Kumar Raut. He's a former member of parliament of the Shiv Sena, understands the Shiv Sena more closely than virtually anyone else. Mr. Raut, the Shiv Sena has been pushed into a corner, virtually humiliated. The BJP not willing to offer plump portfolios. Given that, will the Shiv Sena come on board, agree to be a junior partner, very junior partner to the BJP, or would they rather stay out? We're getting conflicting signals. What's your sense, sir?
Listen, as Rajdeep just now mentioned, Shiv Sena, I think, has been trapped between a devil and a deep sea. If they go one way, there are problems. They go other way, there will be problems. If Shiv Sena joins the government, that will happen only with the terms dictated by BJP. It seems so. And if Shiv Sena doesn't join, that will become the chief opposition party. So leader of opposition would be from Shiv Sena. But then for next 5 years, they will have to keep fighting the government along with Congress on the other hand. We don't know what is NCP stance for us that will support the government from outside and would sit on the right side of the right-hand side of the house. So in that case, Shiv Sena will have a company of Congress against which it has been fighting all 10 years of 15 years of NCP Congress rule. So they are really in a tough situation. But I think the consensus that is going on within Shiv Sena, that is my outside view, ringside view. I don't know what is happening inside. Is that at present, let us take it lightly, let it a bit leniently, and join the government. And once you join the government, then from within you can do something, and then the party will survive and flourish. That has been the thinking going on right now. But if the Shiv Sena joins the government, and as I said, as per the terms of the BJP, and if they get minimum seats in the cabinet, then that will be humiliation. And when they had earlier said that we will not compromise with our Swabhiman and with our self-respect, this and that and other, and then you do like this, that would be really contradiction to your own statements.
Oh, very interesting this, because it's clearly Amit Shah, Narendra Modi, Om Mathur and Fadnavis who hold all the cards at this time. Rajdeep Sardesai for joining us with your thoughts. Thank you very much. Thanks also to Sahil Joshi, Kumar Ketkar and Bharat Kumar Raut for joining us this Friday evening. It seems fairly clear that the BJP will form the government. It will be, from the BJP's perspective, a minority government if it has to be, if they aren't able to bring the Shiv Sena on board. They're pushing the Shiv Sena hard into a corner. Will the new Shiv Sena agree to play second fiddle, or will, as Bharat Kumar Rao just said, Shiv Sena say there is a limit to the humiliation that we can suffer. We will bend this much and no more. An interesting game of bluff, and we'll of course keep tracking this very, very closely. Let's move on to our other big story tonight. Eminent lawyer and member of Parliament Ram Jethmalani mounting a scathing attack on the NDA government. He feels that Finance Minister Arun Jaitley is simply not doing enough to bring black money back into the country and are going back on their campaign promises. A short while before now, I spoke to Ram Jethmalani on Arun Jaitley's defense. Mr. Jaitley says that you've got the double taxation avoidance treaty. If you break it once, no country will ever cooperate with you. What does Mr. Jethmalani make of Arun Jaitley's defense? Let's find out now. Senior Supreme Court lawyer Ram Jethmalani has opened a tirade against Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. He believes the Finance Minister is simply not doing enough to live up to the NDA promise of getting black money back to India. Joining us now live from Mumbai is Ram Jethmalani himself. Mr. Jaitley, you've hit out and hit out hard against Arun Jaitley. You say that he's ill-advised, he's taking a wrong stand in the Supreme Court. Why do you think what the NDA is saying is not correct, and what do you believe the NDA really ought to be telling the Supreme Court, sir?
Now listen, I don't want to enter into a detailed discussion with anybody on this, but I want to tell you that reliance on the double taxation avoidance treaty is the fraud which the previous government committed, and the present government is continuing that fraud about the culprits and the dacoits who have looted this country. That treaty only applies to honest businessmen who have, by the laws of two countries, to pay income tax on the same income which they have earned in one country or connected with the other country.
But Mr. Jethmalani, let me quote to you what Arun Jaitley says.
Anything more,
Mr. No, but Mr. Jethmalani, but
I have tried to explain it to Mr. Finance Minister. If he doesn't listen, we'll fight it out in the Supreme Court.
But Mr. Jaitley says the choice before the NDA government is clear. Violate the treaty, get no names in the future, or abide by the treaty, collect evidence, file charges in courts and let the names then become public.
Now it is nonsense and I don't wish to discuss it and leave it to your judgment. Please be sure about it. He is talking nonsense. It is a fraud on the people of this country, which the previous government started and Mr. Arun Jaitley is continuing it.
But Mr. Mr. Jaitley says if we disclose these names, no more names will be made available to us in the future.
He is speaking a lie. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
But is it not
Please don't ask me any more questions and I will not answer any because this matter is now sub judice. It will have to be fought out in the Supreme Court.
Do you believe that the NDA government has let you down, let the people of India down, Mr. Jaitley?
Well, I'm not talking of the NDA government. Mr. Arun Jaitley certainly has.
But Mr. Jaitley says he's only taking forward the stand of the previous government and he's ensuring that India doesn't violate any tax treaty.
If he's saying that, then that is the only truth that he is speaking. And that only shows that he is in conspiracy with the previous culprits in the previous government.
There's also some suggestion that there could be some Congress ministers, the son of a senior Congress leader on that list.
Why doesn't he talk about it?
But Mr. Jaitley,
he never talked about it when he was the leader of the opposition.
On a serious note, do you not think that...
the Germans talk about the double taxation avoidance treaty? It is he who has talked about it at the instance of the UPA government.
But Mr. Jaitley, is it not correct to suggest that if you violate the treaty once, other countries can say, you violated it once, we won't give you details?
There is no nature of the treaty at all. The treaty does not bind us.
That was Ram Jaitley. We spoke to him earlier. He's, of course, hitting out at Arun Jaitley. There is a personal axe that he has to grind, given the fact that Mr. Jaitley was instrumental in shunting Ram Jaitley out of the BJP. He's the one who took the toughest stand. Now, how much of this is personal vendetta and how much of this is a professional view that Mr. Jaitley has taken? The Supreme Court will need to decide, and we will track that very closely for you. Let's move on to other big story tonight. The Bardhaman blast probe has widened to 3 states after suspected links between the bank robbery at Karimnagar in Telangana and the jailbreak in Khandwa by CME members. Sources tell headlines today that the NIA has taken over the probe both into the robbery and the jailbreak cases to ascertain the CME link to the West Bengal terror probe.
Bardhaman terror trail widening. A suspected CME link spread over as many as 3 states. This robbery in a bank in Telangana's Karimnagar could be a crucial link being probed by NIA.
Sources tell headlines today that currency bundles with stamps of SBI branch Chopadandi, a small town in Karimnagar district of Telangana state, were found in Bardwan. A clear link between the money that was robbed from Telangana state in February 2014 and Bardwan. This shows that perhaps the money which was robbed was used to finance the blast.
In February this year, 4 gunmen had looted the bank and fled with Rs 46 lakhs. It is suspected the robbers were part of a 7-member CME group which had escaped after a jailbreak in MP's Khandwa. The Karimnagar cops suspect the robbery was carried out to fund Bardhaman terror plot.
The NIA chief's visit to West Bengal does drive home a point that the centre does not want to compromise on matters of national security. That's the reason why the centre took suo motu cognizance and handed over the probe to the NIA. It also comes in the backdrop of stiff resistance to a central agency probe by the Mamata Banerjee government, which clearly stated that the CID was competent authority to probe the entire issue.
But NIA DG, who visited the Bardhaman blast site, was tight-lipped.
I had detailed discussion with my officers and we have evolved strategies regarding arrest of absconding accused person. Beyond this, I will not be able to tell you anything.
NIA is already probing madrasas in Murshidabad with alleged links to terrorists killed in the accidental blast in Bardhaman on October 2nd. With T.S. Sudhir in Hyderabad and Indrajit Kundu in Kolkata. Bureau Report, Headlines Today.
In a late news break on this story, we've got information coming in that the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval will be going to Bardhaman possibly as early as Monday. For more on this, we are joined now by Shiv Arur. Ajit Doval himself going down to Bardhaman shows how seriously this entire terror probe is being taken at the highest levels in the Modi government. What is his mandate? What will he do over there?
Well, it couldn't get more serious than this, and as you rightly said, Rahul, this is a clear sign of just how seriously this entire issue is being taken. Today, Director General of the National Investigation Agency, Sharad Kumar, was down in West Bengal. He visited the sites. A lot of questioning happened. He made some very brief comments about what was on, but obviously that's because the investigation is on and also expanded. But Ajit Doval, the National Security Advisor, we learn, Rahul, is heading down there probably as early as Monday. He will have with him a team of people from the Intelligence Bureau, the NIA, as well as the Research and Analysis Wing. Because as we reported here on Headlines Today a few days ago, there is also an international link about possible foreign groups sort of profiting from what's happening in West Bengal at this time. Now, with the entire investigation widening to include that jailbreak of Simi activists in Khandwa in Madhya Pradesh, and the looting of money from a State Bank of India branch in Telangana, a few months ago, all of this has taken a much more sinister sort of twist about precisely what's happening. The important thing to remember, and that's going to be key going forward, Rahul, is that many of the suspects in the October 2nd blast and what happened after that, the names that came out, the people from the madrasas are still at large. Nobody knows where they are, and apparently the government hasn't been cooperating either. So all of those suspects in the blast and the operations that are happening in the Bardhaman, Murshidabad, Birbhum area are still at large, which is the most important point.
This is, to my mind, the most significant national security story at this time. And it is our responsibility as journalists to track it very closely, to keep you abreast with what's happening. Ajit Doval is a super salute, but NSAs don't usually go on the ground to see what's the latest in a terror probe. That shows how seriously the government is taking it. We'll track Doval's visit very closely. This is where we wrap up Center Stage.